Fire Drake, you can clean it up with
You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Welcome back, everybody, to round 6 of the Eternal Tournament Series, Season 1, Week 5. I am Gabe, also known as Calimdir, and here in the booth with me is Sir Rhino. We're going to break down all the action for you here.
Yeah, we've got a pretty cool matchup here. A couple of names that you might not be familiar with. We have SooNo on Dark Cambrai. So Cambrai kind of trying to make a comeback nowadays up against Dunkelwerk, who's on Fire Justice Shadow mid-range. So we've seen this style of deck, all sorts of different versions of it, whether it's removal pile or not. This is sort of a blend of the two because it still has Harsh Rule, but it's also playing Alchemist and Highwayman. So it's a bit of a different hedge than the ones we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think this is more akin to the versions I've been seeing on ladder that are running some amount of lifesteal units with Stone Powder Alchemist and Vicious Highwayman, but still keeping in the harsh rules. So just basically getting rid of some of the weapons and some of the rise to the challenge and things like that to play a little bit more early interaction. Whereas on the other side, SooNo is playing Cambrai, splashing a little bit of Shadow for 2 copies of Vera's Choice, which I really like in this metagame. I know we talked about. And then I think in the sideboard is where it really gets into the Shadow, which we'll talk about later. But for now, it's mostly a pretty standard big Cambrai deck, as we've seen big Cambrai move away from Harsh Rule and into the world of World Bearer Behemoth. The most interesting thing I think we can talk about, aside from also Slay, obviously, is only 1 Martial Ironthorn and 2 Reality Wardens, which I
Sure.
think is a reaction to all the Haunting Scream decks that have become so popular lately.
And Mokto. Revenge
Yeah.
does not work when Reality Warden is in play. Your alchemists and Moktos will stick to the void. They'll gain destiny, but they'll stay in the void. They won't go back into your deck. So yeah, pretty cool tech from SooNo, and he's ready for this metagame. In the sideboard, 2 extra Reality Wardens, and as you said, we'll talk about the sideboarding later, but Sabotage, Protect, Vera's Choice. I'm really interested to see how this matchup will play out. I kind of like the Cambrai matchup here, just because these are both sort of mid-range piles, but one is bogging itself down with 4 harsh rule, and the other doesn't have to worry about that. Just naturally will have more threats, and I like that.
Yeah, I definitely am inclined to agree with you. I think that the deck with Harsh Rule is at a disadvantage. I think that Cambrai, it's kind of time for Cambrai to make a little bit of a comeback because Cambrai was pushed out by decks like Praxis, Argenport, and the Armory decks getting so much better. But this is not the new FJS decks that we see are not Armory. They don't have the same power of 2-for-1ing over Cambrai that Cambrai used to have to deal with. And I think that's going to open the door for something like this deck, which just gets to play so many powerful value units to just bust through and outvalue a deck like FJS.
Yeah, so here, Dunkelwerk had the option of torching this Awakened student. It can be a scary threat, but instead goes with Quarry and gets rewarded with a free torch. So,
Yeah,
hey,
obviously,
not bad.
why would you use torch when you're just going to play a torch for 0? I don't understand.
And you're talking about how Cambrai got pushed out of the meta because of maybe matchups or something like that. Honestly, Cambrai is always one of the best decks. I think people just got bored of it more than anything. It's like, yeah, we know that deck's good. What Chicken will represent it at some point, but let's
I definitely
play some
think
other
its
stuff.
matchups got worse and have improved, but it never got pushed out to the point that I think nobody should have been playing it like they were.
Yeah, I think especially with pure Cambrai, it got less appealing because it was a mid-range deck that didn't have access to Cress, where a lot of other mid-range decks did. But this version, because it's in a third faction, you get to play your Crest of Vengeance anyway.
I like Desert Marshal here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a valuable card against a deck with this many revenge units. But keeping the better threat is a reasonable use of Desert.
Yeah, I mean, Awakened Student dies to Vanquish and things like that, but you're against a deck that's playing 4 Slay and 4 Harsh Rule. You're just not, you can't worry about that really. And I think Desert Marshalling Mokto or something like that isn't really your main concern.
Yeah, no, and if you get your 2-drop to eat a Slay or Vanquish and you're playing Combray, that is a huge victory. That means that's one less Slay or Vanquish for your Behemoth, Reality Warden, Parliament, Titan, Ascendant. The list
Mystic
goes
Ascendant,
on,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it just goes on and on.
So
And I think we're gonna see SooNo hold on to this Martial Ironthorn until he can get an extra activation out of it.
yeah, there's always this tension against harsh rule decks of how many threats do I want to play out. If SooNo had one other threat in hand other than Martial Ironthorn, I think we'd see it pop out here so that he's more resilient to spot removal. But because it's his last unit, you don't want to.
Well, even without harsh rule, I even just into spot removal, I just like getting the value of
Sure.
the
Yeah.
empower trigger, just because Combray can do so much with power, and plus it's an extra +1/+1 on the awakened student.
Yeah. Now here, Seek power is the draw, and you've got to decide: do you hold that power that you fetch with Seek? And it looks like the answer is yes because they're swinging. Getting it Awakened Student to a 5/5 is a nice break point in terms of dodging Brick Rune Hammer. But you've already seen one hammer, and Dunkelwerk is only playing two, so it's pretty marginal.
Yeah, and Combray is a deck that
Oh, you know
really
what? You've
doesn't
seen both
mind.
hammers. Never
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
Yeah, the other
My
one
bad as well.
got tossed by Quarry. We never saw it got cast, but there are two hammers in the void. So yeah, there's no benefit really to making student.
Yeah. And Martial Ironthorn, or rather, Combray is a deck that really doesn't mind sitting around for a couple turns.
Mm-hmm. And here we see holding on to that Ironthorn pays off. Now you get two triggers here. Turn your Awakened Student into a 6/6. Can even use Vanquish if you so desire. And it looks like SooNo opts to do that.
Yeah, and we're only one power away from this Great Parliament spawning 2 owls, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, that's gonna require a Slay from Dunkelwerk, but damage is done now. If SooNo draws any power, and there it is, Crest of Vengeance, doesn't even matter that it's depleted. It will put him to 8 power total, and this Great Parliament will get deployed. Sandstorm Titan on top, that's got to be a better than average draw on this spot.
Yeah, it's got to be better than average. I mean, sure, it's not the best draw, which would be like another Parliament or a Mystic Ascendant, but just any threat at this point is good.
Yeah. And opting to hold on to this Parliament, now you're respecting the harsh rule. And I think instead we'll see Sandstorm Titan come down here, and you'll use Great Parliament as a reload.
Yeah, I like the Sandstorm Titan play here. You could have played the Parliament last turn, but it's just really risky. And a deck like Combray doesn't have to make those risks.
And here we see Slay comes out and hits the Awakened Student because it's the bigger threat than Sandstorm Titan. The Sandstorm Titan is shutting down an Ikaria if you top deck it as Dunkelwerk, but that's not your concern, right?
Yeah, definitely. And looks like this is going to be over next turn.
Yeah, if Dunkelwerk gets like a Destiny Mokdo plus something, then you're eating a Slay and hopefully having another blocker. You've got a shot. Like, this is certainly not over, but Dunkelwerk needs a good draw here to have a shot. SooNo is thinking about pulling the trigger on this Parliament.
I mean, there's definitely some merit to it, right? A Slay or something like that does just give Dunkelwerk another turn otherwise. Whereas now Dunkelwerk is really needs to draw specifically harsh rule. And that's not it. It's a Vera's favor. And that's going to be 1-0 for SooNo.
Yeah, that was a risk versus reward play where maybe SooNo doesn't feel like they're favored in the very long game with that Mokdo coming in and out constantly, and instead just trying to take the line that ends the game as quickly as possible. They're okay if the risk of them having harsh rule is acceptable, especially because you saw a Slay come out on your 2-drop. Like, if they're not using harsh rule in that spot, they probably don't have it. On them exactly top decking it.
Yeah. At that point, you knew that your opponent was just drawing to outs, because if they had anything, like you said, it would have been cast. So post board, let's talk a little bit about the sideboard. Let's start with SooNo's Dark Combray deck, because that's where it starts to get a little bit interesting. We see the Sabotages, Annihilates, and more Vera's Choice really getting into the shadow part of the deck for the sideboard. What cards do you like?
It basically just turns into Argentport midrange post board
with better threats,
right?
Yeah.
You just almost max out on Sabotage. You can max out on Protect, and now you just have your Mystic Ascendants, World Bear Behemoths, Sandstorm Titan, those Seraph, like these are great. Yeah, I like maxing out on Vera's choice in this matchup against a deck with 4 Ikaria, 4 Mokto. That seems like a nice place to be. Annihilate is not what you want to bring in. They aren't targets unless you think there's a chance. Like if you look at FJS mid range sideboard, they can almost transform here. They want to, like, they can get rid of the harsh rule and bring in Valkyrie Enforcer and Unseen Commando and try and turn into their own style of mid range beatdown. It'll be so you kind of have to play a guessing game with that, but regardless, I don't think you're going to bring.
Yeah, and I think that they weaken their deck so much. Like Short's a different strategy, but it's not a strong strategy.
Yeah, and is it a
comparatively.
strong strategy in this matchup
Yeah,
specifically?
not
Like,
against Sandstorm Titan, not against Desert Marshal.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see how both players sort of warp their strategies around that. I think regardless, SooNo is going to try and max out the Protects and Sap.
I don't think we see. I mean, we might see maxed out Reality Wardens, but I don't really like cutting Iron Thorn. Like, I'm not sure what you take out because sure, Reality Warden is very good in this matchup just because it's a big body, which is difficult to remove with weapons. It doesn't die to Annihilate. Not that that would be in it anyway. Or actually, okay. There are a lot of Annihilate
Will
targets,
be
but
in, yeah.
yeah, but doesn't die to Annihilate and stops Mokto. But I mean, you just have so many other good threats that I just don't know where you're going to fit it in.
I think I might like it more than Iron Thorn. Iron Thorn is cool with the power and extra power sort of value, but I think just being a 7/7 with that effect might be more useful. Like your opponent's playing flyers that are big, you kind of sometimes can end up in racing. Having that 7/7 necessitate double blocks and things pretty nice.
Yeah, I might be a little biased because I'm just a big fan of Marshall Ironthorn, but
Mhm.
I personally find a lot of time you don't really realize the impact
Oh
of
yeah.
Marshall Ironthorn just because he seems so uh, unthreatening, but being able to jump up in power in a deck like Combray is huge because there's a huge gap in your power curve. There's a huge spike going from like 3 and then up to 8. There's just a lot of time in the middle where you're kind of not doing anything, and if
Yeah.
you get stuck on like 5 or 6 power, you can get punished really hard. So being able to make that
Mhm.
jump a little faster is probably more valuable than most people
Yeah,
recognize. But
and the
I agree
deck
with you.
has the 4 World Bear Behemoth to also help with that issue.
Yeah,
It's not like
exactly.
if you cut the one Iron Thorn, your odds change dramatically on that. It's only one Iron Thorn. It's
Yeah, exactly.
clearly they valued it. They were playing one of it over Reality Wardens in the side. So it'll be interesting to see how much they value that one of Iron other options,
Yeah.
or if there's better cuts, or do you want to cut down on slays or vanquishes or whatever, for desert marshals.
So
There's a lot of strong cards.
I really like this opener from Dunkelwerk here. He's got, I mean, I don't like 2 power, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. I guess this is how all 2 power hands are. It's like really good if you had more power because you have a lot of cards you can cast.
Yeah.
But Quarry will help with that, and then just having the combo of Wander Poster Annihilate is just very efficient. And then he'll find some stuff to do in the late game. Meanwhile, on SooNo's side, these are 3 cards that are very good in this matchup, but that's all he has.
Yeah, and it's gonna be slow, so it's gonna give Dunkelwerk a lot of time to set this up. And we see Unseen Commando go to the void off that quarry. So Unseen Commando at the very least came in. That might tip off SooNo and us as well. We don't know that Dunkelwerk took out Harsh Rule if they're bringing in mid-range threats like that.
Yeah, like the difference last game we saw SooNo take over the game, but they took over the game very early, and they were applying pressure from turn 2, whereas here we're not going to see much develop until turn 4, turn 5. But we do see a more solidified late game plan, whereas last game we saw SooNo kind of stall a little bit around 4 and 5.
Yeah, last game SooNo had what, 3 awakened students in the opener, something like that. So certainly not going to match that speed. But we see the sabotage out of the sideboard get deployed here. SooNo planning on tapping out probably the next 2 turns with a Parliament and Behemoth in hand, and has the option to either take out an Annihilate, a Wanted Poster, the 0 cost Seek Power. There's only one unknown in your opponent's hand off this sabotage. They can't see the Mocto. It could be a little fun to go with the force them to stumble plan here.
Yeah, I mean, you're assuming they either have power or a unit, and
Yeah.
I guess it's more likely they have power, so the safer pick is not seek power, but still would have been interesting.
Yeah, but there we see. I think it actually was a safer to assume that they had a unit and not a power because they took seek power specifically over Mando.
Oh,
Uh,
true, true.
but I think it's pretty responsible to take an actual card like Annihilate there anyway. Dunkelwerk finds a replacement for off of this quarry.
But another sabotage gonna take care of that annihilate. And we talked about it a little bit. I don't love bringing in Unseen Commando in this matchup just because sure it's a card that they probably won't have great answers to, but Combray is just a deck that naturally is good against Unseen Commando.
Yeah, it's hard to out mid-range Combray mid-range. Like
Yeah,
they're gonna have the bigger stuff. Like their units deal with your units. That's what Combray does. So I understand trying, like you said, trying to take to the skies could make sense, but against a deck with Sandstorm Titan, Desert Marshal, Parliament, I guess because there's no Valkyrie Enforcers in this Dark Combray list, it's not an unreasonable plan of attack here, as we see Valkyrie Enforcer the draw for Dunkelwerk.
yeah, and 6 power right here is actually very, very, very good for SooNo. If he gets to play Mystic Ascendant next turn with an active World Bearer Behemoth, that could very, very, very quickly close this game out.
Yeah, no removal available for Behemoth in Dunkelwerk's hand, but could silence it with this Valkyrie Enforcer. And we'll see what he opts to do because Unseen Commando is the draw for turn, and that's what gets deployed here.
I just, I mean, I guess he's banking on trying to race or something. He does have a huge life lead, but I think he's really underestimating the power that Combray has in the late game.
Yeah, so now SooNo gets to go Mystic Ascendant play here, and if World Bear Behemoth fetches up an undepleted power at random, and then Mystic Ascendant draws an undepleted power, you could also follow up with Vera's Choice.
Yeah, that would just be devastating.
That'd be insane. The odds of that are pretty low. Note that Dunkelwerk did not play out Mocto here because he does not have double shadow available.
Right.
An option for those wondering. And here instead, we're going to see Vera's come out on this Stone Powder Alchemist, and this will prevent Dunkelwerk from double blocking and torching this behemoth. But it means SooNo can't play Mystic Ascendant this turn.
Yeah, and also probably doesn't even want to play Parliament this turn. I don't know if that was necessarily even the responsible choice. There's definitely an argument for it. This is a position where it's really hard to say what is correct because you don't know exactly what's in Dunkelwerk's hand. You know almost all of what's in Dunkelwerk's hand, but still.
Yeah, now if SooNo doesn't draw power, they are drawing action, but yeah, Great Parliament's not exactly what you want to see here. I think you have to play one out. I mean, you're at 16, you've got time, but the thing is, you're going to have so many other things to do.
Yeah, you're gonna have so many other things to do. You're not under a ton of pressure, but I mean, one of the Great Parliaments will be enough anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just get this silence out of hand for your? Yeah, there we go.
All right, so now he's got the option to either get a draw off of Ascendant or get Double Owl down. At 13 health, I think I'd prefer to go with Double Owl here.
I'm always like to draw cards, so I'm inclined to play Mystic Ascendant. But the more responsible play is probably the Owls. It's just you'd rather have Owls eat removal. It's just more blockers, blockers that actually block the flying threats.
Yeah, you're at 13. You've probably figured out that your opponent might have a torch in hand, and then they also have things like Stone Powder Alchemist for extra reach. So this damage adds up. Even taking 6 here and going to 7, you're pretty close to death if you do the math with all the other torches and things that your opponent can throw at. SooNo plays it responsibly, deploys the Owls, and is hoping to hold on here as Dunkelwerk finds that second Shadow Source and deploys Mocto.
Bear's Choice, pretty good here versus Mocto.
Yeah, it's not going to kill him, but it'll take him out of the sky and put him back into the hand. Having to use Vera's Choice on the board twice in this matchup is pretty rough. That's not really where you want to be.
Yeah, I think
No,
that's really going to come back to bite. I think that the first Varus choice is really what started pushing the game in Dunkelwerk's favor, because it just slowed down SooNo's advance so much that now Dunkelwerk's actually being able to put together an offensive.
yeah, I can agree with that. There were spots where you could have deployed this ascendant, and they've been careful instead, and it just hasn't worked out. And now Dunkelwerk has a healthy amount of life here and found the power to deploy this Icaria that they just rose for. That'll be possibly showing up next turn.
Yeah, and he's also just given Dunkelwerk a ton of time to find an answer for this ascendant, right? Had he played it earlier, it might have been a different
Ooh.
story. Obviously, very good draw after you just see a rise to the challenge.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to pass up Varus choicing Dunkelwerk's face after a rise to the challenge. This is where choice does work. And for those keeping track, that's the third Varus choice we've seen this game. So SooNo did board in at least one extra as we expected, because, man, it is great against these rise to the challenge decks.
Yeah, Icaria does not like being ripped out of people's hands and thrown in the trash.
It's not normally a card that's that easy to 1-for-1, especially without her ever getting a Warcry 5 off. So now we'll see Dunkelwerk opt to not rise this turn and instead just deploy the silenced ones that are Mokto and Alchemist.
And now that Dunkelwerk is forced to actually play out all these silenced units, SooNo finally gets a break and gets to play this Mystic Ascendant. And this could be the start of SooNo just completely taking over this game, depending on... Okay, well, never mind.
Yeah, Slay right off the top puts an end
Yeah.
to the advantage that SooNo was trying to claw back with.
Yeah, because I was going to say, SooNo could handle a Rise to the Challenge, could handle one Icaria more, but not without that Mystic Ascendant.
Yeah, it went from, I think, SooNo potentially being favored to now Dunkelwerk firmly in the driver's seat as Mokto comes in and paired with Torch clears out 2 more units. Ascendant
Okay.
draw gives SooNo some chances here, but this Icaria is going to apply a ton of pressure.
And interesting how that works out, that you get the draw before you get the scout.
Yeah, that sequencing I've found pretty interesting, that it ends up going that way. Ooh, Auric Runehammer, but I think we're going to see Icaria get deployed.
I don't know. I
Maybe
mean,
not.
who knows what
Scared of the
Seraph could
Seraph
roll
ladder?
into.
I would be willing to let them roll the dice with Seraph for one turn
Okay.
if it means if they
You're
whiff, I
going to
kill
be
them.
sorry when it's Roland's Honor Guard.
All right, in comes Icaria. I don't think you chump here. I think you eat the 3. Going pretty low. You're in torch range now. Also dead to either of their flyers.
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do. Besides, you're going to get Roland's Honor Guard right here.
Right.
Right
Yeah,
now.
here we go. The wheel. Reality Warden's not the play, so see what Seraph can dig up.
And that's Champion of Vengeance. Not really a very good card, but at least it's invulnerable right now. Not anymore.
Looks like Dunkelwerk's gonna take this one. Hey, Torch off the top. Let's make this nice and easy.
Yep.
We're gonna get ourselves a game 3.
Yeah. So generally, I like other than Unseen Commando, I like how both players sideboarded. But I guess in that game it did work out because we had SooNo just take a very conservative line there and gave Dunkelwerk time to take over.
Yeah, maybe SooNo will recognize this next match that, like, I think it's safe to say with Dunkelwerk's sideboard plan that Harsh Rule came out. So we'll see if SooNo adjusts his sideboard plan again, knowing that's what Dunkel did. And no, I'm wrong. Dunkelwerk is playing Harsh Rule, just also brought in 4 Valkyrie Forces and 4 Unseen Commando now.
Yeah, why
Never
not?
mind. Yeah, because the best way to leverage the power of Harsh Rule is to bring in units that die to it.
Take out your Moktos. Take out your revenge units.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Yeah.
Can't say I quite understand this sideboard plan from Dunkel, but it works, so it must be correct.
Yeah, that's how science is done.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. All right.
Interested to see how this third matchup plays out as players are still sideboarding.
So they
for game 3.
figured out exactly what Dunkel. They took out, like you said, they took out 2 Moctos. They took out an Icaria.
They
They
took out
kept
some
in
Highwaymen.
partial. They took out Highwaymen. So they just changed their threats to be slightly cheaper.
Yep.
Okay. But they still
And
kept in the
that's
harsh rule.
basically it.
I feel like harsh rule was the wrong thing to keep in, and instead
I
you
feel
just
like they
keep
sided
in
like
the
they were
max
against
number.
aggro.
Yeah, I feel like you're supposed to keep in the max number of threats and take out harsh rule, not take out some of your threats and then bring in kind of worse threats, but they're a little more evasive, except they're not really more evasive than Mocto.
Yeah, this sideboarding plan I think would make sense if he was against something like Skycrag or Stone Scar.
Not quite seeing how Unseen Commando is better than Inquisitor Mocto.
Yeah, I mean, sure, there's silences and there's Sandstorm Titans, but
That all
there's a
works the
limit.
same on Commando, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we'll see if this schizophrenic planet again it will work in game 2, and maybe SooNo made the same read I did, where I was like, well, if they brought in those things, surely they don't have harsh rule, and now we're just getting
Yeah.
next leveled, right?
Yeah, they're just we're just not on the same level as Dunkelwerk, okay?
Yeah,
Dunkelwerk is a mastermind.
there is some merit to being so unpredictable that you don't even know what your game.
True. You just make it up on the fly based on your hand. And this hand, a little bit power heavy for Dunkelwerk. I wouldn't be surprised to see him send that back. 5 is a lot. There are 2 good cards in it. That those,
And
if
2
I could ask for
crests.
2.
Yeah.
But,
So
yeah.
like you have perfect fixing and you have some draw manipulation. So as far as 5 power hands go, at least this has 2 crests.
Yeah.
And yeah, we see it actually is.
That might have been the redraw as well. So actually, no,
You can't
can only
redraw
get
into
you
5
can't redraw
power,
into 5.
so.
Okay. Yep.
And there we see right away crest comes out, bottoms presumably power, and now he's got a hand of nice threats and a way to kill all of them.
And Wanted Poster is great here. SooNo redrew into a 2 power hand, which is a little awkward.
Yeah, has the option to choice or student. No real reason to choice, considering your opponent's threats on 3 generally cost double justice, and they have access to that, considering they started on double crest.
So depleted power here means, or seek power specifically means that both awakened students can't get this buff, but I think it's still worth playing out the second one.
Yeah, getting ahead on board is a decent spot to be here. I could see going for choice, but you're really saving that for things that cost more than 4. So
Yeah, I think you might even just be saving it to only use after Rise to the Challenge, even.
Sure. Yeah. So now, Wanted Poster comes out, and then I'm guessing, okay.
Yeah.
Just drawing there instead of going for setting up a harsh rule or bigger emergency situations.
Yeah, it could also be trying to get SooNo to play more into the harsh rule, but he doesn't know that SooNo is stuck on power necessarily.
Yeah, there's also a risk to just playing Wanted Poster and planning on trying to harsh rule the next turn, because it could get sabotaged, it could get protected,
Yeah.
or they could just silence their own unit.
Yeah.
Here we see, speaking of silence, this sad student is only a draws some power and
okay, doesn't use Vera's Choice, which I'm happy about. It wouldn't have hit anything. Now, pretty good target, but also, yeah, I think right on turn 6 is a good time to use Vera's Choice if he decides to play that over. He might just play Sandstorm Titan there, though.
Yeah, I expect a Titan over Parliament would come out here. Play anything. You could go for the choice. The last time you used choice, you saw no other threats in their hand. You haven't seen a Rise yet. It would be a pretty bold play to point a Vera's Choice at their face.
I think on ladder, personally, like my play would be Vera's Choice, even if I didn't know, just because I have died to Icaria one too many times. More like
but
600 too many times.
But Sandstorm Titan answers Icaria. Like they can't.
True.
They can't play Icaria here.
That's true.
So that's why it's like pretty safe to play Sandstorm Titan. They don't have the power to play Icaria plus something there.
Yeah, if they were able to like play Icaria and Vanquish or something, then it would have been much more of a debate.
This jump block, that's a telegraph that they have. I mean, Might not have known they had harsh rule. Now you know. But you
Yeah.
also, if you're SooNo, just drew protect. So this Sandstorm Titan is going to cause some headaches for Dunkelwerk here, who kept a heavy power hand and has drawn more power despite scouting quite a number of cards to the bottom.
Yeah, so I think now there's definitely merit to still holding Bear's Choice, because now you're pretty confident in this harsh rule. You have this protect anyway, so you feel really safe about holding the Sandstorm Titan in case of an Ikaria. And they're going to draw a Rise to the Challenge eventually.
That being said, though, if you draw any power, like you have things to do with your power going forward.
Yeah.
I think that's where SooNo ended up. Like, I have all these other spells to cast. Why am I sitting on this Bear's Choice any longer?
Yeah, and this game, as long as SooNo draws, and there's the fifth power, this is gonna turn around very quickly once SooNo starts deploying their threats and gets past this harsh rule.
Yeah, he sniffed out this harsh rule, but Dunkelwerk drew Annihilate. So now the Annihilate could bait out the Protect here. And so now SooNo will deploy an extra threat to kind of play around this combination of cards that he.
Yeah, and a very clever Great Parliament over anything else.
Yeah, gotta hold up that Protect. So now we'll see the Protect come out in response to this harsh rule. That Sandstorm Titan will survive, but then it'll die to Annihilate.
Yeah, and not, I mean, I'm sure playing Great Parliament was mostly just because that's what you could hold a Protect with, but it's also just the least valuable threat here.
Yeah.
And yeah, look at this.
I think I go Behemoth just because of the upside with Ascendant.
Yeah, I agree.
Reality Warden dodges more removal, and your opponent's at 11, so maybe just going for the threat that is most resilient and kills just as fast is a fine line.
I think you play a second threat here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because harsh rule, you just have your hand is full of threats. You'll be fine.
Yeah. I get a second threat down here so that they have to draw harsh rule, right?
Yeah,
if they draw
have
spot
less
removal,
outs
they
this
die.
way.
Yeah, so don't give them more draw steps than you have to. Now the question is which one, and I like mixing and matching here, going with World Player. Although you have just demonstrated that they don't have an Annihilate, so there's merit to going just the second Reality Warden or something like that.
But I mean, obviously Annihilate wasn't lethal anyway, so or didn't stop you anyway if they just kill the World Bear. So
sure, but they could also top deck another spot removal. But instead, they draw an Alchemist, which does keep them alive.
And I like playing the student there. Just get the extra +1/+1 on it, because it's just a pretty low value unit.
So Dunkelwerk can draws harsh rule. There we go. So he's back in this now. SooNo, though, still has no shortage of threats here. If he draws power, Mystic Ascendant starts cantripping. Doesn't, can play out. Works, got the Runehammer plus Torch. I mean, that will combo. Yeah.
That will kill Mystic Ascendant, but I mean, that won't be able to answer Reality Warden.
Here we go.
Wow, Slay,
removal pile doing removal pile things.
I mean, yeah, Wanted Poster keeping him in this game.
Did Dunkelwerk take the Unseen Commandos back out?
It's very possible. Oh, no, there they are.
Yeah, in his rise. So he's just been fortunate to not draw the bad part of his sideboard plan for this matchup.
All right, well, here's 2 Owls.
2 Owls and potentially a Seraph, although the Seraph gets eaten by the hammer. Your opponent's at 3, so they can't hammer any of your units.
So we can see. Can we see all 3 spells? No, we can only see 2.
Play, vanquish.
Oh no!
And that's game.
What have you done?
You have now lost.
Okay. Well,
I don't think he had an out though.
No, really? Are you sure? Even
you play
with Ikaria?
If you play Ikaria in 1 removal spell, your opponent still has 2 units. So A space.
Oh yeah, you're still dead. All right.
Now you force them to A space, and guess what your other card in hand is?
Yeah. I still like that better, but
better than actually killing yourself for them. Like give them make mistakes, but
yeah. But alas, that is going to be 2-1 for SooNo on the Dark Combray deck, as we kind of thought. But I mean, obviously, any match in Eternal can go either way.
Yeah, before this removal pile had access to a card like Wanted Poster, like Combray just deck. But man, that card really helps it keep up with the
Yep. Yeah, Water Poster are just like you said, done a lot. I mean, people tried all. That's why Icaria Blue was a thing to play Wisdom of the Elders, things like that. Water Poster is really clunky, and I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about it, but it's the card that that FJS needed.
It
Really.
costs one. Like,
Yeah, it costs
yeah,
one.
it's situational, but when your entire deck is removal, it's not.
And in a game like Eternal, where people have to play units, almost every deck is playing units. Whereas, like, in some other card games, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, it is certainly, I think, been overperforming overall based on our initial expectations of the deck of that card. Just the way that the meta is shaken out and what you can. There's so much cheap removal to pair with Wanted Poster that it doesn't sit in hand for very long. It seems.
Yeah, and I think that is the end of our round 6 coverage, correct?
Yeah, whatever number it is, it's not really important.
Well,
That
I mean,
was the final match. Regardless, we're gonna take a quick break. Did we want to do a quick plug before while we set up the next round though?
Sure. Let's take a second and talk about the ETS Team League, which is an event that we have on Sundays. We are currently in season 2 of the Eternal Tournament Series Team League. It's a competitive league in which 16 teams play off in a round robin in 2 groups, leading off to a cut to top 4 for a single elimination playoff tournament. These are the biggest teams in Eternal, like Seek Power Gaming, Owls and Dragons, Eternal Titans, Eternal Warcry, and even some of our very own aReNGee players on team. What are they
Magical
called?
Christmas
Yeah,
Band.
Magical Christmas Band. Yep. Um, uh, we don't broadcast it necessarily here on this channel. The Magical Christmas Band does broadcast their perspective on this channel,
Mhm.
but all the individual teams do broadcast their perspectives as well. So it's a really cool thing. You can go back and forth and hang out in all the streams, and that's happening tomorrow.
Yeah,
So yeah,
Sunday all day. So it's a really cool setup. It's very different from even us, here talking about lines of plays that players are going over. With the team league, you actually get inside their heads and see what they're saying, what they're thinking as the team discuss their lines of play and figure out the matchup. So it's a really great way to learn about Eternal and learn what some of the best players' thoughts are about every card and how to play the game.
yeah, and it's also really cool to see not only a bunch of people playing and going through stuff, but also each team's individual style on how to play each deck.
So tune in, just really check the Eternal channel on Twitch and see who's streaming. They'll say they're in the ETS team league and go and support these teams as they rev up for the playoffs. With that, we're going to take a real short break here and get ready for round 7 when we get back.